Kings and Queens, Your Majesties, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for returning. Trust you and yours are well and you're loving yourself and all this like always. Many thanks to all of you for the support you give to the channel. Thank you so much to our channel members, to our anonymous supporters, to all of you my esteemed subscribers. You loved, celebrated, and of course appreciated. So, we will listen to this investigative journalist tell us how external forces or powers have influenced and taken control over Nigeria's institution and other African countries as well. Now, when we talk about what is going on in West African countries, especially Nigeria, some of you would not want to believe that the external forces are so much involved in all the dealings in Nigeria, and especially this whole issue of terrorism and the rest of them. We heard the US congressman expose themselves, telling us that when the USAID was caught, that information came out that they sponsor Boko Haram, like openly. It's not a hearsay, it's what they had said. I brought that information here as well, and we deliberated upon it as well. They fund Boko Haram, of course, an Islamic, terrorist group. And when it becomes an Islamic terrorist group, the belief is that it is the religion that is against Christianity. And so there is a fight. Already that's a problem. And their job is to unalive people. Already that was a problem. Okay? That's a problem. And this increased the hate between Africans. Brothers and sisters. Why? Because of different religions. You believe, okay, you are unlifing my people, you're not like, you understand. So a lot of confusion have been caused successfully, division in the continent. And when you are divided, it is so easy to conquer. The divide and conquer tactic, they've been using that, they'll keep using it. And the painful thing is that Africans will not still learn. They will not learn. Now, I believe David have been saying a lot of things about this whole issue in the continent, how external forces are involved. They are the ones who are behind the destruction of the motherland. They are the ones working tirelessly to see that countries in the continent do not come together, especially sub-Saharan African countries. And there is a reason why. We listened to the deliberations they had, open meeting, open discussion, they had this, and they said that for them to live a luxurious life, sub-Saharan Africa has to be poor, has to be in debt, had to be destroyed with terrorist groups and the rest of them. So they are funding this terrorist group because they believe that if Africa is living in peace, without terrorism, without confusion, and we are loving one another, there is no way they are going to succeed. I will leave the video before David's analysis. So you listen to this whole situation and understand the gravity, the level of which we have been bombarded from every side. And I think it is high time that Africans begin to wake up to the fact that this is not a religious something. It is those who are up there using this religion as a tool. The earlier we understand these things, the better for us. Your brother is not your enemy. Be you in any religion, be whether he or she is in any religion, is not your enemy, she is not your enemy. Your sister who is African is not your enemy, whether he or she is in any of these religions. Once you begin to look outside the box, think outside the box, and look beyond all this religion, we will never get to crack, the code of the solution to what is happening in the motherland.
If you are an African, you really need to watch this. Africa is in trouble.
Sub-Saharan Africa has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow Sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep Sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay? So the job of many Western academics is to convince Africans they have to keep doing what they're doing. Okay? And to show them it's your fault that you're poor. It's not our fault. It's your fault that you're poor. You know? So this is what we do in academic institutions. We know the basic forces that have caused this underdevelopment. We know it's colonization. We cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and start producing manufactures. Okay, so we will do everything to stop that. And I'm going to show you how we actually block that. We had East Asian rapid industrialization processes. So in the earlier period, we had Japan and Korea and Taiwan. Okay, rapid growth, sucking in raw materials from Africa, driving up the prices. After those countries finished industrialization, then Sub-Saharan African growth rate again fell. Sub-Saharan Africa is condemned to this role, just the supplier of raw materials, not a manufacturer. The currencies are collapsing of these countries, and many of them are Sub-Saharan African countries. After colonization ended, we needed new structures to keep these countries where they were. Okay? And the first of those is aid. Okay, we give them aid. Aid for what? Actually, we give them aid to keep repressive regimes in power. That's all. All the hypocrisy about transparency and democracy and bullshit like that, it's all bullshit. But it would go to country after country offering loans. And if the president did not accept the loan, they were killed. It's just economics. It's economic warfare. The rich declare war on the poor. It happens everywhere. It happens in a country. The rich control the government. Of course they do. You really believe you have democracy? Come on. You know, I mean, grow up. Who has all the subsidies and income support? US, Europe. The largest budgets in the world for supporting their farmers are Europe and US. You see, we're keeping them dependent. We're keeping them on a string. This next round of the WTO is designed to block that. To block anyone else getting on top of the ladder.
External powers absolutely do have the power to influence the decisions that are taken by a country at all levels. And this is already happening in Nigeria. One of the ways, the most obvious ways that you can see this happening in Nigeria is the extent to which the World Bank and the IMF, which for those who don't know, even though those institutions have the word international and world in them, those are actually American institutions, right? They're owned by the US government, right? The US government has a controlling stake in both institutions, right? Those are US government appendages. Now, these institutions essentially have almost total control over Nigeria's public policy right now. So every recommendation that is made by the IMF within a few weeks becomes policy, becomes law in Nigeria. So be it the new tax bill, which is to go into operation from January 1 next year, that's an IMF tax bill, right? It was not Bola Tinubu or the Nigerian government that came up with that tax bill. Let's just be clear about that. That bill in its entirety was dictated from Washington, D.C. Be that the new, the proposed constitutional amendments for creating, for example, a citizenship by investment program, which a country like Nigeria, 215 million people, absolutely does not need and would be absurd. These things did not come out of Nigeria. Be that the almost entire seizure of Nigeria's food and health regulatory spaces by a single foreign entity, the Gates Foundation, right, which obviously works in lockstep with the US government. That is just another example of this total capture of Nigeria's government and regulatory infrastructure. And people need to understand when we use terms like imperialism or neocolonialism, those terms sound like ivory tower terms. They sound like things that Kwame Nkrumah used to say in the 1950s. But what those terms actually mean is that in a meaningful, everyday sense, you think you live in a democracy with the paraphernalia of a democratic state, but all the levers of states that are available in this supposed democracy are seized and controlled by external powers. So if you recall recently, the National Assembly held what was supposed to be a public forum on a public consultation on constitutional amendments. If we look at the picture of this event, this is the National Assembly of a sovereign country talking about amending the constitution of that sovereign country. Who were the people present at that meeting? Right, the logos that you were seeing displayed on the banners of that meeting, you were seeing UK Aid, which is the subsidiary of the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. By the way, the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office is the parent institution of the MI6, right, or the SIS, which is the premier foreign intelligence extension of the UK. So a sovereign country amending its sovereign constitution is doing that in partnership with a foreign intelligence agency. You are seeing names like PLAC, that's the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center. PLAC is funded by the MacArthur Foundation, which is a very well-known CIA extension, right? So you have British and US foreign intelligence agencies directly involved in writing your new constitution. That is what it means to be to suffer neocolonialism, to have foreign entities seizing control of your country from under your feet, right? And once that has been done, once that capture has been executed, it doesn't matter whether people physically bring soldiers in to occupy your country or not. Just for the fact that the supposed democratic levers of state, which you think belong to you, have been hijacked, then your country no longer belongs to you. You are no longer sovereign. So in answer to the second question, which is what can Nigeria do to regain its sovereignty? The most important thing, I think, is that people, first of all, need to be aware that these things are even a problem. Because in my interaction with Nigerians, I've realized that if you mention, for example, that, say, I'm just throwing an example out there, that say the Gates Foundation is essentially writing Nigeria's food and health policy, right? All the people who are writing Nigeria's food and health policy or rewriting it are in some way, shape, or form on the payroll of an American billionaire who is part of the US government establishment. If you mention that to the typical Nigerian, well, it doesn't understand why that is a problem. It's like, well, Bill Gates he's a nice guy. He just loves Africa. He funds vaccine development to save Africa, save the lives of young African children. He's a philanthropist, right? He's this, honorable Western billionaire who's trying to use his money to save the world. Right? He has made so much money that he has moved on to solving civilizational problems, right? That's what most people in Nigeria actually think. So I think the most important thing is for people to become aware that in the world that we live in, there is no such thing as a freebie. There is no such thing as a philanthropist. There's no such thing as somebody who wants to cross an entire ocean to come to your country to help you. In the world we live in, everything is give and take. Everything is mercantile. If somebody is giving you this thing, you can be sure that what they are taking away from you is 10 or 100 times the value of whatever they're giving you. That is the reality of the world that we live in. And an African of all people should be aware of this, given the history that we have. But I think most Nigerians still aren't aware. But I think that public education is the most important factor. Once that education is complete, then the political rollback of this takeover of the Nigerian state can then begin. But the education comes first, which is what people like me are trying.
All right, Majesties, that was David Yundeyi there, the investigative journalist. Now, the truth is that when you talk about the average Nigerian, when you talk to them about a foreign body being involved in one or two, and they won't see anything wrong with it. That's exactly what we see by day, especially when we have interaction with people. I see that from most of the times from the comments from some videos made where people will be accusing you that you are the evil person, and the Europeans and Americans who are involved in their country are the best ones. They love them. And like what David said, there is nobody in their right senses who will cross waters to your country just because he wants to help you. Just because he loves you so much, he wants to help you. That doesn't happen. But the average Nigerian don't see this thing from this perspective, and this is where the education comes in. When people are educated to understand that these people don't really want our good, they are doing it because of what they can get. It's a give and take. Nobody just come to you and say, okay, I'm doing it because I love you so much. There is a reason why that person is doing it. There is a reason why Bill Gates is involved in the food system of Nigeria or the continent. There is a reason why America is involved when it comes to decision making in the motherland. Tell me a sovereign nation like Nigeria will pass a bill that was influenced from Washington, D.C. It's not from my mouth. We heard it from the investigative journalist. This very bill will be passed in January next year. Nigeria, okay, passing a bill that is dictated from Washington. This bill will be passed by January. So if this can happen to Nigeria, just imagine what is happening in other countries in West Africa, in other countries in North Africa, Central Africa, East Africa. Just imagine what is going on there. And we also saw from, like what he said, you're making a decision, amending a constitution, and those who were present were Americans, were Europeans. And the flags you were flying were obviously European flags, connected to some of this international kiniko. Neo-colonialism, when are we going to free? Until we begin to educate until we begin to educate ourselves and begin to pull out from what this hold that these people have on us. Educating ourselves about this fact is one of the major things that we can do, especially to ourselves as Africans. When we realize that there is nothing coming from Europe and America that is free, that is when we begin to free ourselves from all this hold. Because up until this time, the average African believed that the Europeans and Americans can do things for you out of love, out of care. They're just moving around the continent, helping people. Why are they doing that? This question does not come to mind. Why do you think that they always have this belief that Europe and Americans are saviors? Because of religion. The brainwashing is religion. The mind have been conditioned to believe that anything white is a Jesus, a Messiah, a Savior. They're always coming to help us, bring good news to us. What have you? We are evil people, but they came to give us good news. These are the things that run in the mind, except you have decided on your own to decolonize. A lot of Africans are not decolonized yet. Their brains are still wired the way the white man wants it to be. It's just few that see everything the white man, like when a white man coming to you to show you love, it's just few that knows that that's dangerous. Majority of Africans still believe that that is love. Anyway, I just felt like showing this to you today, and I hope you watch through to this time and understand what is going on in the continent. What do you think about this way forward? Leave your thoughts and opinion there at the section, and we'll see you in my next one. Until then, love yourself, love others, stay safe, stay positive, always, your majesties. Bye for now.